Welcome back to another episode of Spiritual Teachers Podcast. With me today is a dear brother that I've known for several years now. He goes by Flowing River. Flowing River is a poet, a heart-centered mystic, a seeker of truth, and a devotee of the divine. So it's such an honor to have you on today, brother. Welcome on.
Thank you, brother. I'm really excited to jump on your podcast today and see where, the great mystery takes us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a feeling it's going to be really, really powerful one. So, some of the topics we're going to cover today is Flowing River's spiritual journey, Sikhism, and then what Flowing River is creating today in the now. So, I'd love to invite you to share how it all started for you. How did the awakening journey evolve for you?
Yeah, that is a deep and profound question. It all started for me with a lot of pain and suffering. I think that's how a lot of us kind of choose to awaken. And some of us that are blessed, have beautiful, perfect families and are blessed under a lineage of spiritual teachers from a young age. And that just was not my journey. you know? So, and I think a lot of people could relate and resonate with that for sure. You're looking at the state of the world, but I grew up in San Francisco and had a family, mom, dad, relatively stable household. But the thing is, we grew up under the shadow of capitalism and this concept or idea that you had to prove your value or your worth through materialistic gain. Let's say making money, buying the fancy car, getting that house, yada 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 yada. And so there's this subtle yet not so subtle pressure to get money, and it changed everyone's lens of reality. That somehow we forgot that having a beautiful family, a peaceful household, that peace within our hearts, just went out the window, and God became a piece of paper for some reason. And this happened slowly but surely as I matured in conditioning from my parents, from school, from TV, from movies, from music. And I ended up, by the time I was 20, I was like, oh, I need to get money. This is the only meaning to life. Everyone keeps saying it and everyone's chanting it, rah, 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 so that's what I ended up doing when I was 20. I just went into entrepreneurship right away and started to figure out how I could, make money to survive, because my family wasn't, I would say my family was like, hey, get out the door, you go make out in the world by yourself, be independent type of energy. And they weren't going to support with, hey, I'm going to give you $100,000, you go figure, make something. So
Right.
I was really much went out into the world with I think $400 to my name and kind of figure it out,
Right.
which was beautiful and tragic at the same time when looking back on it. But it's all perfect. And so from there, I got a partner, and both of us just started working, and we did that, got lost in the world, made businesses that promoted, let's say partying and drinking and smoking and just things that really didn't highlight the best parts of humanity, and just got lost in the sauce. Nightclubs, everyone goes through some sort of phase. If you're growing up in one of the big cities in America, I'm sure we all have stories like that. And took some bad turns and ended up hanging out with people that weren't necessarily doing the right things. And somehow you wake up after 3, 4, 5 years and you're like, wow, I'm surrounded by people that don't care about me, that everyone's selfish, it's a dog eat dog world. It's very competitive. And it didn't feel good. And guess what? That share is also a reflection of who I was at that time.
Right.
Because you become the five closest people next to you have a profound impact on you, whether you're spiritually aware or not. But their thoughts, their words, their actions rub off on you. They invite you to do certain things that maybe you wouldn't have done yourself, right? And on a spiritual level, there's their aura and like how that's affecting you on a subtle level. So I got just a good example was, I was at one of my lowest points when I was like 25. I was in Las Vegas like um, 3 weeks, 3 weekends out of the month for various industry mixers, parties, things like that. And I'd been drunk like 28 out of 29 days straight. And I
Wow.
remember waking up in that hotel room, and it was like 10 a.m. I woke up, and I can't, maybe it wasn't 10 a.m. Maybe it was a lot later, but I can't remember. It was like daybreak. Like I remember it was like daytime, and I was just feeling my whole body was on fire. I was like hungover and sick and just decrepit, and I just had negative thoughts, and I just hated myself. And I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, I'm killing myself. Like, alcohol is doing nothing for me. This is like destroying my life. Like, these people aren't even my friends. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I was just, I just had this rock bottom moment. Like, seriously, like, you need to take careful accounting of what you're doing. It's like, you need to go in the opposite direction now. Like,
Yeah.
and so I pulled ripcord pretty hard at 25 to get out of that situation, like destroyed my entire business that we had built up. We had like 500,000 people coming to our website every single month
Wow.
for this nightlife business. And we had like 100 people working for us. And I just mic dropped it. Like I just stage left exit, just redirected all the traffic to my personal blog and went to Philippines for a year and a half and reset. I read the whole Bible. Like I got sober,
Wow.
and you'd think, oh wow, you're making a positive turn. Nope, fell right back into the trap. And so the next 4 years, I was kind of like topsy turvy, and like it was kind of I never considered myself an alcoholic, but it was a social thing, and
Hmm.
so I would get in out of it, and then I didn't have really like people that could show me the way out, and so my soul was crying out like, where's the answer? Like I couldn't really find a pathway to get out of this entanglement. So that happened for about 4 years. And then 29 came around, and me and my partner were still working like 16 hours a day and just grinding. And I remember going to a transformational music festival. Like, Burning Man was a thing. Everyone heard about Burning Man. A few people kind of went, but then the scene started happening where these transformational music festivals started popping up, and Lucidity started happening in Santa Barbara.
Hmm. What year was that?
Oh man, that's got to be, man, I can't remember exactly what year, but it was the second year of Lucidity. I'm going to go with that it was 2014 or 2015.
Okay. Hmm.
Okay. It may have been earlier. It may have been earlier. And so, but I'm going with that. And so I get there and I'm just like, wow, this is incredible, right? Like obviously I never experienced anything like that. And I wasn't like super spiritual at the time or anything like that. And it was just fun and things like that. But I went to this one workshop, and it was for Newmundo. Shout out to David and Newmundo. Newmundo was basically like Airbnb for eco villages and permaculture farms before like Airbnb got big. Before now, there's Woofing and there's Workaway and all these other platforms that do it. What Newmundo wanted to do, I'm not quite sure where they're at now, but it was really beautiful. They were talking about eco villages and like living in intentional community and working with the land, and I was like, that sounds amazing. Like,
Yeah.
sign me up, bro.
Yeah.
Like teach me. Like, I was so hungry, I was like searching, like, where are the good people in this world? Like, it's so funny. I thought I couldn't find them. And I was like, is this whole world just filled with darkness? And then, they were like, hey, we talked with their co-founder, and we were like, hey, we're a creative agency. We could trade, because they were doing this 12 permaculture farm kind of retreat, like through California. We're going to go to all these different places. You'll learn about permaculture and all this stuff. And we're like, yeah, we want to do that, but let's trade for a website. So we built them a website, and then we were supposed to go on this tour. We were working so much, and the why I share the story is we were working so much that we couldn't even take them up on the trade. It
Oh,
got
wow.
to like the last 4 days of the retreat, and I was telling Anna, my partner at the time, and we were saying, we gotta go, we gotta stop working. Like, this is how much in the mindset we were like, hey, you gotta get money, you gotta survive, you gotta, get the rat race. And we were like, we gotta go. So we just dropped our work at that time and like forced ourselves to go for the last 4 days. And I remember we went to Ojai, we went to East of Eden, and shout out to Connor Jones, who's incredible permaculturist. And we land there at the evening, and they just have, the little string lights and beautiful farmland, and there's a little baby kiva with a fire going. People are playing music, people are talking, and everyone's just chill, relaxed. And I kid you not, within the first 4 hours of being there, I had gone deeper with these people than I had done like the last 10 years of my life with anyone else.
Wow.
And just like, okay, this felt resonant with my heart. This felt resonant with my soul. These people are connected to the earth. They want to, create symbiotic harmony. They want to find peace in their lives. They want to support like society and the earth as a whole so that everyone can thrive. And I was like, these concepts were absolutely foreign to me for 29 years.
Yeah.
Let that sink in. Like 29 years, I knew nothing about that way of life.
Mm-hmm.
That's a reflection of our society.
Yeah.
Brother. Like what they're teaching us in school, what they're promoting to us in the news, what the companies are promoting as their products and services. What is the art that's being created in the movies and the TV, and what's being, shown in the museums? Like, I didn't get exposed to any of that until I was 29, and it wasn't from society, it was from the people that are connected to the land. So by the grace of God, that experience happened. And because of that, we went on the next 4 days, and it was a beautiful, transformational, eye-opening experience. And we connected with the owners, and they said, hey, you want to come out to Costa Rica, and come to our company retreat at this off-grid permaculture eco village?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So, so we went for 2 weeks, and that was a wonderful experience. And, our plans to work with Newmundo didn't pan out for whatever reason. I can't remember, honestly, but that's okay, because the permaculture eco village that we landed up was called Think-O-Morpho.
Mm-hmm.
And Think-O-Morpho means farm of transformation.
Mm.
I didn't realize how much that farm was going to transform me until much later in my journey, but I was just happy to be there. And we were 14 acres, 25 hippies, 45 minutes away from anything, on a generator, right next to the beach, in the dense jungle of Costa Rica. Like,
Yeah.
coming from the city, coming from America, everything just faded away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whoever you were in the past was gone. Those tools and techniques that you learned in the past, gone. Like, this was just a parallel universe. And it's crazy to think that both of these realities exist at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so healing. I remember like because after that 2 weeks, we liked it so much that Tegan, he offered like, hey, you could stay here for an apprenticeship for 3 months if you wish, and learn how to grow food and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, well, let's do it. So we ended up getting a little space there, like rinky-dink cabin or a bunk bed. I can't remember what it was. And we ended up staying there. It was very rustic, is the best way I can put it. Nothing fancy. Like,
Right.
compost toilets, gray water, people working together, bugs and all this stuff. And it was absolutely fantastic. So we go through that 3-month experience, and it was profoundly healing for a couple of reasons. One, it was just so healing to receive so much love, from the community. but not only from the community, but receive so much love from the land. Like just putting your hands in dirt is
Right.
healing. Like planting a plant is healing for somebody that's never done it before.
Yeah.
Creating that connection between you and nature is so profoundly healing. So triggers something so deep, so human, like that's been going on for millennia. You
Yeah.
know, that if you're in the city, like, and you haven't done that, like, oh my gosh, run out and seek out people that have that connection with the land and beg to learn, because that will transform you on a like primal level that you may have forgotten. But when you remember it, it's sacred. That's the best way I can say it. And then the most profoundly healing thing for me though was to give my love and, you know, not have my hand bitten, because where I came from, it was such a dog eat dog world. It was so competitive that whenever I gave my love, people just took advantage of my weakness.
Right.
You know, they literally just, I remember all my business partners I ever had tried to take advantage of me. Like it's traumatizing, you know,
Yeah.
like you just learn not to trust anybody.
Hmm.
And you learn to, oh, I have to protect myself. I'm going to contract, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And so just for me to be able to share my love with other people and then for them to reciprocate by not taking advantage of me and reciprocate by, oh, well, I'm going to just send some love back to you.
Mhm.
Like that was just paradigm shifting. So that happened for about 3 months. And then I did, during that 3 month period, that's when I got my name, Flowing River. It was actually a Sanskrit name, Narayan, which means in several languages the name of the divine, but also means flowing river of divine consciousness. So instead of explaining to everyone what Narayan means every single time I meet them, I was like, let's just go with flowing river. That makes everyone's going to understand what a flowing river is. And then I also was able to sit with grandmother ayahuasca during this time from a Peruvian slash Christian mystic, and beautiful ceremonies. I sat 5 times. Profoundly eye-opening experience. Each experience was deep surrender and love and just wonder, and just invited me deeper into the great mystery and wanted me to know the truth. And you know, at that farm, I got exposed to many different like indigenous cultures, like indigenous wisdom. I got exposed to yoga and just the path of mysticism and different, let's just say, occult, you know, ideologies and things of that nature. And it just became very curious.
Hmm.
And something very interesting started happening there is I started receiving poetry, or at the time I thought I was just writing poetry. And I hadn't written poetry in 11 years. And I just started writing these poems, and they were great because I thought they were really beautiful, and I'd receive this poem, and I start reading the poem, and then I'd start sharing that poem with other people and repeating it over and over again. And I didn't realize until later, but that was like a mantra. That was like reprogramming me on a cellular level, like infusing different ideas, stories, and concepts and beliefs, and that I wasn't even aware of what they may have meant at the time, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll come back to that in a moment, because that comes to full circle with this whole poetry thing. But another super critical moment happened at that first 3 month stint at Think-O-Morpho, and that's when I saw my ego for the first time.
That's huge.
Huge. And now remember, I'm 29. I don't even realize I have an ego.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that, I would just call that like, I mean, some people, you know, die and they never figure that out. So I guess I was lucky. But um, you know, for me, like I look back and then I'm like, wow, I was a late bloomer, you know, compared to other people like that I meet on the path. But everyone blooms in their own time. And I wouldn't even call seeing your ego blooming in the spiritual sense, but just a you know, first level of awakening.
Yeah.
And I remember the exact moment. I was sitting in the back of a pickup truck with 10 other hippies, and we're leaving the night market, going back to, you know, Think-O-Morpho, and I'm standing up on the back of the pickup truck, like holding on the bars, like, you know, over the truck. The lights are streaming down the dirt road. You got the stars just over your head. You're underneath the jungle canopy. It's rushing past you like winds flying through your hair, and you're having a great time. And you're like, yeah, this is so great. You know,
Yeah.
just enjoy in bliss of the moment.
Butterflies flying by.
Well, there's no butterflies. It was nighttime, but
Oh,
like, you
okay.
know, it
Yeah.
it 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 was just that rush. It's just like I'm alive right now, and I just
Yeah.
felt so good. And in that moment of feeling so much joy and so much bliss, I said out loud, I said, "You can't have that much fun." And then I sat down next to my friend
Mm.
Jaguar, because I believe his name was Chad, and he really liked Jaguar, so he became Jaguar. Shout out to Jaguar. And I sat down next to him, and you know what he said? He said, "Whose voice is that?" I was like, "What do you mean? Like, whose voice was that?"
Uh, there we go.
And right, and so like I reflected on that. I was like, whoa, whose voice was that? I literally, he made me reflect and realize I literally just stopped myself from having fun. I didn't even realize that I had a belief system installed within me that was a joy limiter.
Yep.
Once I hit enough joy, I was like, you can't have that much joy. You can't have that much bliss.
Yeah.
Like, you're not worthy of joy. Or whatever it was. I can't even remember what it was, but there was a limiter. And I
Mhm.
had hit the limit and it was like, come back down, drop your vibration down. You know?
Yeah.
And so I was like, bro, that's insane. And then he was like, so that was the first moment I was like, oh, there's another voice in here. It's not just me. Like
Yeah.
I thought every voice inside my brain at the time was me. Like wait, there's somebody else in here that's trying to direct me
Hmm.
and control the situation. I was like, whoa. Then he said, well, what if you just surrendered to the moment? What would have happened,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I was like, oh, well, if I would have surrendered in that moment, I would have continued to be in joy. I
Hmm.
would have been experiencing so much happiness and bliss. But because I listened to this other voice that just literally was a thief and robbed me of that moment, I prevented myself from accessing that experience.
Hmm.
Right? Then he said, well, what if you just surrender? And I didn't have that specific response, but that was like the inner standing, you know, like
Right.
it's a much more profound response now, but like that was the epiphany I was having. And then he was like, well, what if you just surrendered for a day or a week or a month or a year or 10 years or the rest of your life? Like how much joy like of being in the present moment like could happen, right? And like boom, right before I could get to joy, the first image that my mind projected into my mind's eye, it was like, oh, if you surrender for 10 years, you're gonna be diseased and decrepit, and like your clothes are gonna be all torn, and you're gonna be on the side of a gutter in a sewer with rats eating you, and you have nothing. You'll have nothing. You hear me?
Wow.
You'll have nothing. Don't surrender. Like literally my mind, and then so much fear flooded into me. It was like a combination of the visual plus the thought, the voice, and the emotion of fear flooded my system.
Hmm.
And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And then I was like, I told Jaguar, and then we were like, you know what we're doing tomorrow? We're surrendering to everything.
Hmm. I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
we're like, screw that, bro. Like, that's not what's happening. Like, we're gonna surrender everything and see what happens, right? And
Yeah.
so we made the plan, like, hey, we're going to town tomorrow, and it's like 45 minutes away, and we're just gonna surrender to everything.
Hmm.
So next day we wake up and we hitchhike to town, and you know we get to town, and I remember the first thing was like, there's a hawk, like, or there's some sort of bird like flying overhead. It's like, okay, that means we go down this road. You
Hmm.
know, then like literally there was a butterfly. Okay, that means we turn right here at this thing. And then we
Hmm.
saw a guy like sitting there by himself at the restaurant, and we were like, okay, that means we're gonna sit and talk with that guy.
Hmm.
And we just surrendered to everything. And somebody came up to Jaguar and was like, hey, I need money for medicine. And you know, Jaguar gave him $2.
Hmm.
Like, just surrender to it. But the craziest thing is that guy didn't realize that that was all of Jaguar's life savings. He
Wow.
had $2 to his name, and he gave
Right.
him everything.
Yeah.
Like, it was just so beautiful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he had literally no more money after that. And just the whole day was that incredible mystical flow state that just leads you to, you know, one beautiful thing after the next. I can. I wrote a poem about it, but I'm not going to go so deep into that. But after that moment, um, I was like, I made a pact with the divine. Like, I went deep within myself and I said, I'm going to surrender to everything for as long as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that. I did that. And it took me on an incredible, wild journey
Mm-hmm.
through multiple countries, experiences with the light, experiences with the dark, just, just I said yes to everything. At that time, I could have really been taken advantage of,
Yeah.
And by the grace of God, like they didn't allow me to have that experience. But what can I say? Um, the journey began there, like in earnest, where I was like, I want to just heal myself. I want to heal my body. So my friend was like, hey, you want to go to Guatemala? I ended up going to Guatemala, staying at the place called Mystical Yoga Farm at Lake Atilan. Beautiful, amazing place, now run by my friend Jahendo. Shout out to Jahendo. And we did karma yoga there for 3 months and supported the farm. But at that place, I started just devouring books. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to learn the truth. I wanted to heal my body. I wanted to understand yoga. I couldn't even sit for 10
Yeah.
minutes without pain in my body.
Wow.
I had 15 years of chiropractic, like, work done to me. Like, I thought I was going to the chiropractor for the rest of my life, from back problems and issues from a sports injury earlier when I was younger. And so I just wanted to heal I just wanted to be able to sit. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. Like, and I was like, okay, yoga, breath work. I started getting exposed to all these tools, techniques. There were so many different mystics and teachers in Lake Atilan area that I was just kind of like hungry. I was really hungry, right? And I know that I was supposed to be doing this like work trade, but honestly, like I try to do, like this is if Jenna sees this, like I probably did the bare minimum I could do, because the rest of the time I was just reading the Upanishads, I was reading the Gita, I was reading like Tibetan Buddhism, I was just reading, the Patanjali and the sutras, and like I was just going in like it. I couldn't look anywhere else because my soul was like, you got to get to figure out how to heal yourself. And then the next thing that happened was, okay, you got the tools and techniques to heal yourself, and went on this interesting journey for like a year, let's say. Now you understand how to heal the physical body, but then it's like, well, what is the truth? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Like, why is what is happening? Like, there's all these different people saying different things, and there's aliens, and there's this, and there's that, and there's the cult mystery schools, and there's the traditional lineages, and there's gurus, and there's teachers, and there's new age, and it's like, does anyone know what's actually
Yeah.
happening? Like, who's
Yeah.
in control of this? Like, where are we going, and what are we doing? Why am I here? Like, it just these deep, profound questions started hitting me, and I was like, I that became the new compass. Like, after I could figure out how to heal myself, and I was still on the surrender path. So I'm surrendering into this. I'm cultivating deeper connection through plant medicine, through the yoga techniques, through trying to piece things together from elders and find my way through this crazy labyrinth. Like, what is the truth, right?
Yeah.
During the entire time, I like I said, we had encounters with the dark, we had encounters with the light. I'm gonna kind of fast forward a little bit to the end of the surrender journey, where I realized I couldn't surrender anymore. I think this is a very important lesson for everybody, because why couldn't I surrender anymore? Because it was just too much pain and suffering. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I got to this point where I was just surrendering to the experience I was having, and it was just crushing my soul. It was crushing my heart. It was destroying a beautiful relationship I had for like 11 years at that moment. And I just kept surrendering. In full transparency, my partner wanted to experience polyamory. I wanted to stay monogamous, and I was just surrendering. As you can imagine, that's just heart wrenching.
Yeah.
And I did not speak my truth. I did not speak my truth so much to the point that, I literally developed a like sickness in my throat, like the most painful sore throat that I had ever experienced, where I didn't speak my truth, and then it manifested as me not being able to speak. Period. For
Right,
several
right.
days,
Yeah, that's how it
and
goes.
yeah, only later after you realize how it goes, you realize why everything happens. But at the time, I didn't realize what was going on. But it just physical pain, emotional pain, and subjugating myself to this. And it has nothing to do with my partner, what she wanted, and my path, and all that stuff. It had to do with me standing in my truth and my light, and what the lesson was for me in that moment. So I don't, put any blame on her or anyone else in that situation. Like, you have to take full radical responsibility for yourself in every scene of the experience. And
And I think
so,
that's really important what you just said, you know. For me that was a huge liberating component when I took radical responsibility for my life and that everything that was happening to me was my choice at some point. Whether that was coming in and choosing my parents to all the experiences that I had was at the core of it my decision, you know.
absolutely,
Very
absolutely.
liberating.
It is very liberating, and it's daunting because you have to be very mindful of the seeds that you plant in your life. Like my
Yeah.
teacher, he always says, like, you could be planting seeds of love and they're going to grow beautiful flowers in your garden of life, or you could be planting negativity and hatred, and you're going to be planting weeds in your garden. At some point in your life, those seeds are going to come to fruition in your garden. So, we have to be mindful of the types of seeds that we're planting. I didn't learn that lesson until much later, but so, um, so at that time, I realized you can't surrender to everything. And that lesson didn't come back until like 2, 3 later down the line when I reflected upon this. And I realized, well, all the lineages are asking you surrender, 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 surrender. But why, when I did the surrender experiment, it led me to only pain and suffering? The reason why was because I was surrendering to the wrong thing. Right?
Mm,
You could surrender to the light. That's what you're being asked to. Or you could surrender to darkness. That's what you
right.
don't want to do.
Right.
Right? And at the time, I didn't realize, well, what's the path of darkness and what's the path of light? What are those characteristics and virtues of darkness? What are those characteristics and virtues of the light? Right? And so I didn't realize that and instead I was just surrendering to everything. And everyone has the light and the dark that is within us. And if you don't identify those things, you're going to be at the whim of, you know, uh, of whatever's coming through somebody, whether it be light or dark. And so you must study. You must understand what are those characteristics. Not to say that duality, one is good or one is bad, right? But to go beyond that, to say that this is leading me in a direction towards light, and this is leading me in a direction towards more ignorance and darkness and pain and suffering.
Yeah.
So the choice is ultimately always ours of whatever that you wish to experience in your life. So at that time, I didn't realize that, and I was surrendering to people's egos. I was surrendering to, the dark aspects of people's characteristics. I was surrendering to control. I was surrendering to a lot of things that put me into this very disempowered state.
Hmm.
Um, and all because I wasn't studying and I wasn't aware of those things. If I would never do that now, but back then that was the lesson that I was receiving. It was very powerful, powerful medicine, which led me into the next scene of the dream, which was coming out of the surrender experiment and saying, okay, well, if surrendering doesn't work, at least in that way, what can I do to go into growth mindset? And so I went to this very austere period of my spiritual development where it was like, okay, what are the tools and techniques? So then I started going to paying for these very expensive tools and techniques to be shared with me and applying to my life, diet, breath work, meditation, this, that, the other thing, and just going as deep as possible. Like, I really wanted to know the truth. I was like, how deep can I go within myself? Like, how much plant medicine can I take? Like, what is the limit? Like, whatever the limit is, let's go beyond the limit. Like, I
Right.
was very extreme in my pursuit of knowing the truth. I'd probably say, like, I was doing austerities easily 8 hours a day, like from different healing modalities. Then I went to conscious hacking, biohacking, infrared lights and grounding mats and shaking machines. And I can't even remember all the things I was doing, honestly, but like I was in that space, heart variable monitors, all that stuff. And so I really dedicated myself to like, what are the practical means? Like, if I do X, then I should get Y result. 1+1 = 2, right? That's what it became spirituality for me. It's like, okay, do these techniques, raise your vibration. And I was going through the body, very physical. Like everything was very physical, breath, body, this, that, the other thing. And very hard. Plant medicine's it's not an easy path. You're obviously purging a lot. You're ingesting these plants. The community is beautiful. The music's beautiful. The people are beautiful. The intention is beautiful, but it ain't easy.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
Like I don't care what anybody says. And I did, I sat in a lot of circles and I worked with a lot of plants because I wanted to, figure out, is there truth there? Like I did bufo, I did ayahuasca probably 50 times. I did mushrooms probably 50 times. I intentionally, like very deep, like not just, oh, we're taking 1 cup. No, like I took the shaman's cups, like what they were drinking. They would have 2 cups. People don't understand that. There's shaman drink and then there's the participants drink.
Right.
Like, and then hape, there's a shaman's dose and there's the normal people's dose. I would take the shaman's dose or even beyond the shaman's dose. I would really push myself to the extreme levels of like what's here. I remember one time I was with shaman here just to share, and I told them like normally 10's a strong dose, like that's a full cup, like in the way that I was communicating with the shaman at the time. I told them give me a 15, and then they were like, are you sure? Like, are you sure you want to take 15? And then they talked me down to taking the 13. And then even the shaman said, like, you're kind of crazy,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this for, oh, wow, look how crazy I am to, push it. I'm showing you this, how stupid I was. Don't do what I did. Right?
Well, it's also a deep desire to find truth, and that's what was really guiding you through it, right? Like to see what was actually possible and why we're here, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that it became a, like obsession, to be honest. And so I take this dose, and what ends up happening to me is that it was so powerful that my consciousness could not even register what was happening really. And I could see that my experience, that as I went deeper into the experience, it split my spatial awareness into 2 places, into 3 places, to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 places at a time, all continuously happening on different planes of existence. And it was extremely disorientating. I could not comprehend what was happening. It was extremely painful. It was not fun. And I realized there's nothing beyond taking more plant medicine. There's nothing beyond taking the second, the second dose, the third dose, the fourth dose. There's nothing there. That's what I realized. I was like, there's just more disorientation. And this experience wasn't the only experience I had of this. There was other times where I would push the limit beyond what the capacity that my conscience could record. And I was like, yeah, there's just nothing here. I took hero doses of everything, bufo, mushrooms, aya, like hero doses. And it's just like, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. I couldn't receive anything from that experience.
It's almost like experiencing a video game at that point, right?
There's many experiences of, I would say that when you go deeper into your personal awakening, that life becomes a video game in perpetuity.
Right.
But in that plant medicine experience, I've definitely had visuals and things like that where things become pixelated, or you start seeing like the energetic grid of reality, like the basis of reality and stuff like that. But what use is that? Like my teacher says, is like, what's the point of knowing? It's actually not knowing that's beautiful.
Mm.
Because what does knowing get you? It's intellect, it's ego. Oh, I had this experience, you had that experience, comparison.
Yeah.
What if it doesn't lead you? If all your tools, techniques, plant medicine, whatever it is that you're doing doesn't lead you to becoming a more compassionate, content, loving, truthful, and humble person, then that's not leading you towards the light.
Right.
Period. Like, so many people, so many spiritualists get caught up in like, oh, I had this experience or that experience. And I'm only sharing my experiences as warnings on the path, not as like, oh, look at what I did. Like, let these be warnings to anyone that's listening. It's like, there's nothing there. Like, save your money, save your energy. Go. The only answer is going deeper within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what I came out of all these experiences. And that's where the true transformation happens. Because I'll say another warning, and people in the plant medicine world might not like this what I'm about to say, but I probably sat with Hape like 3,000 times. I probably sat with Aya and mushrooms 50 times each. I recorded every single one. I've sat with Bufo and all the other plants as well, and Bufo is from a frog. But some people sit with Aya for 500 times, plus or whatever it is. And for those people, maybe that's their path, and that's beautiful. For me, it wasn't my path. And it didn't lead me to getting rid of my anger. It didn't lead me to being content. Like, I had worked with that medicine for 5 years, and it gave me deep revelation. It gave me great inspiration. It gave me beautiful community, and gave me so much, but it didn't lead me to where my soul was trying to go. And Ram Dass says this too. Like, he gave his teacher 4 tabs of acid, and his teacher just meditated on him. And this is a great, right? He's just sitting there doing nothing. And like, that's a hero's dose of acid.
Right. Yeah.
And Ram Dass afterwards, he came up to me, he's like, well, what happened? Like, he's like, you didn't even move, And his teacher just said, like, yeah, it'll take you to the door, but it's not going to take you through it.
Mm.
And going through that experience, that story resonates so much with me, because it will take you to the astrals, but it's not going to take you through the 10th gate. It's not going to take you through the crown. It's not going to connect you straight to the heart of the divine. So, there's no shortcut in the path of spirituality. You got to do the work. So that's like a profound lesson that the plants taught me. And for some people, maybe they make a breakthrough through that. And I'm not saying it's impossible. Everything's possible. Even the impossible says, I'm possible. So like, maybe you could take plants and go all the way through. But I think for what I saw in that community and what I experienced firsthand, it didn't take me there. And no amount of money, no amount of ceremonies, no amount of, you might touch something, you might see something, you might feel, you have such a visual experience, but comparison to meditation is the craziest thing I've ever done in my life. And we're getting to how we got there right now. So I go through this period of intense austerities, right? And I'm shaking for like 3 hours a day. I'm doing this intense, strong breath work, breath of fire, Wim Hof, all this stuff, jumping in ice water, like, just pushing myself, like doing these intense plant medicine ceremonies. And you were there in those maybe one of those circles, and people respected what I was doing at the time, and I was seen as a pillar in the community, and that's great. But I was just in so much spiritual ego, because another thing I want to share with people along the path is, as you shed your old ego, you're assuming a new ego. You're like, oh, that old version of me is dead, and now I'm this new flowing river, and I've got necklaces, and this is how I dress now, and here's how I talk now, and and then people are like, wow, you're so great, and this and that, and my ego is at an all-time high, like at the peak of this. So it was never bigger. And so what was the result of doing all that healing work? Mm-hmm. For me, what that was, I'm going to create a school, Ascension Academy. And I'm going to teach my wisdom, the things I've learned on this path. And I'm going to help you transcend. And I'm going to help, I'm the master. And that's where I ended up after all that 5-year journey through studying and learning and growing and seeing what other people were doing. And then it became like, oh, it's a business. I can make money off of this,
Right.
you know? And look, anyone that's doing that, there's nothing wrong with it inherently, right? But when you compare to the true spiritual masters, the true masters, the enlightened beings that have walked this planet, did any one of them have a 30-day course, you know, that upsold you into like a master class and a group and all that stuff? No, everyone walked the planet for free. Jesus, years and years and years and years and years of service. Buddha, every year he would set up a new retreat center for like 40 years plus of his life. He did that. You know, he would set up a new meditation retreat center and spread the word. Guru Nanak Dev Ji, 5 udasis, or four udasis, maybe 5. Some people say 5. Most people say 4. I think it was like something like 20, close to 20 years of his life, like traveling the world, sharing the message of universal oneness. Like
What's an
anyone,
Udasi for those that don't know?
it's kind of like I wouldn't call it a missionary because there's no conversion, but it's just like a journey into foreign lands to share the message of oneness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So these beings didn't take one penny from anybody. They served at the feet of the divine because they saw the divine within each and every being, and they were there to be in service to that light, to help awaken that light, to help co-create a more beautiful existence for all by raising everyone's vibration, by tuning them and helping them remember that light within themselves. And that, when that realization came, I was like, wow, you know, like, why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And that realization didn't come until I came across my teacher. So how I came across my teacher was a crazy story too. Many mystical experiences happen on this path, right? So one of them was, before I met my teacher, I ended up getting invited to like the Cool Kids Club meetup of spiritual leaders. As you know, there's like, you know, a lot of life coaches and spiritual leaders and stuff, and they'll gather at these convergences, global leader convergences, new earth convergences, stuff like that. And I love the intention. Don't worry, I'm not poo-pooing on anybody, what anyone's doing. I was part of that, and I'll go there. And you know, one time I got invited to this place in Santa Cruz, and it was actually a place where Alan Watts and Terrence McKenna used to meet up, and they would do their retreats and things like that. And it was kind of like a wizard's castle, 40 acres in the redwoods, and they were doing a meetup there, and it was great. And why am I saying that? Because I walked into, there was some interesting things happening there. That's a whole nother story. But I walked into the library, and the library was massive, like 2 stories tall.
Wow.
Like, you know, I don't even know how to explain how big, but I would just say a very large room, oversized room, 2 stories tall, raised ceilings, filled with books. Book. Every single lineage, every single topic of consciousness or science or spirituality was in that room. Ancient Egyptology, like hidden books that are banned, the things that, you know, people aren't supposed to know, like the cities, the spiritual superpowers, everything was in there. So I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can even go out of this room.
Yeah, I'm living here now.
Yeah, I just started pulling books, that anything that just like jumps out at me, right? I started pulling books, and I'm reading up on everything and like cult mysteries and that stuff, and I'm taking pictures of the books that resonate because I can't read them all. And one book I remember really stood out to me, and it was a book called The Path of the Masters. And so I took a photo of it and I started reading it, and I was just like, wow, this is, yeah, I want to, you know, that's where I'm trying to go. I'm trying to do my best to master myself and become the best version of myself.
Yeah.
So took a photo, and then later I left that place, go and try to find those books. I couldn't find them all. Luckily, I was able to find that book, used of course, and read it. And I read, it was probably 400 pages. I read everything up to the last chapter. and everything. It was like going through like all the different lineages, all the different schools of thoughts. Here's what they're trying to lead you to. A lot of practical knowledge. But at the very end, it said if you want to go further in your path, you have to find a living spiritual master. There's no other way to progress forward other
Mm.
than that. Once you get to a certain point in your development, I was like, damn, well, how do you find a living spiritual master? Like, I've definitely came across a couple interesting characters in my path, but I couldn't say that anyone was the actual living spiritual master. So they said the only way is to pray.
Mm.
I was like, all right. So for the next 2 years, I prayed to meet a living spiritual master. And in all those deep ceremonies, when I was taking hape or doing whatever you saw me doing, I would be praying. In addition to whatever I was praying, I was like, send me a living spiritual master. That was the first thing, right? And then I didn't read the last chapter because it said you can't progress any further. So don't read the next chapter unless you meet a living spiritual master. I was like, all right. So I just saved that book, put it on the shelf, right? And then I ended up at this IFA Foundation. This is happening during the moment of the surrendering for a year and a half. So I'm going back in time for this moment. I ended up at IFA Foundation. IFA is an 8,000-year-old ancient tradition, African tradition, right? And they had 22 shrines there, and there was a high priestess there. This is Florida. And I was following a wizard who was following like hermetic wisdom to this place. This is how wild my life was at the time, right? And he's like following me, like film me and like do this stuff. He was creating a course and all that stuff. I was like, okay, great, yeah, let's do it. I just surrendering to whatever.
Yeah.
I ended up there, and at that place, that's where they're doing all these rituals and stuff. And the way that they worked was, it was a very physical alchemy. So they would do like this plus a flower, and you do this combination, and then that creates this vibration. It's healing. And so, I'll give you an example. They had a ritual for me where I would lay down a clearing cleansing. They rubbed a live pigeon all over my body.
Oh, wow.
Then they took like selenite crystals, really large ones, and like waved it over my body. And then they took like some sort of smoke. I can't remember exactly what it was, but in the and they would fan that all over my body, and that was like an example of a clearing or cleaning ritual. And they had different rituals for different things that were going on in your life. For me, it's like the 22 shrines had different archetypes, and so it was very archetypal work for me. And the one thing that happened there that stands out, why I'm saying that, is because the high priestess will give you a reading. So I go and receive a reading. She has like two strings of bones or shells, and they have markings, either horizontal or vertical, right? So 24 combinations, could be horizontal or vertical. And she's like, she throws them twice, and she gives you a reading. So I'm like, okay, she offers the reading, so I'm gonna go for the reading. I do that, and she's like shaking up the bones, right? And she throws the bones out, and all 24 are completely vertical, just
Wow.
two straight lines, right?
Wow.
You could say wow, but at the same time, it's not a wow, because anything you throw is a one of 24. It's the same odds, right? Like, or whatever the odds are of the 24 combinations, 24. Like, even if one was off, like, who cares, right?
Right.
Like, it's just one of that throw, and that's nothing special. But I looked at it and I was like, okay, cool, all vertical. That's interesting, right? Then she's like, okay, well, we're gonna throw the second time. She wasn't even impressed, right? Shakes it up, throws it the second time, all vertical again. Now, the odds of that happening are like, I did the math on it. It's like 1 to like, quadrillion, billion, like, or something. Yeah.
Wow.
Like the odds of it happening twice is just so slim with that many different combinations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's 24 times 24. I can't remember. It's something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculously small. And now she was like, okay, that's interesting.
Well, I think so. I think it's important to mention that the like our logical mind wants to look at it as odds, but spirit has a way of showing us things that don't make logical sense to remind us that that it doesn't matter if it's lower odds than winning the lottery. We're going to show you what you need to see, right?
Exactly. And her reading to me was the first thing she told me. She said, "Don't tell this to the other wizard here. He's gonna get jealous."
Uh-huh.
Because he but then the next thing she told me, she said, "This means you are going to take the highest path and receive the highest teachings." And
Mm,
I said, "Thank you so much." And I'll be honest, at that time, I didn't believe everything. Okay. I went to fortune tellers, weird people, like I was having all kinds of crazy experiences. I was just like, okay, whatever. I took it with a grain of salt, you know. But looking back on that moment, it all makes sense. So I took it as a positive notion, but I didn't put a lot of weight into it. I mean, this is a high priestess from an 8,000-year-old African tradition that I don't follow. So I'm just like, okay, great. You know, that sounds awesome.
yeah.
Little did I know that it would actually lead me to a very interesting position in my life. So then continue on. Now I'm outside of the surrender experiment, and I'm looking for some advice. And that same wizard friend, he's like, "Hey, talk to this guy. He's like a floppy disk inside of a supercomputer." I was like, I don't even know what that means, but that's how he described him, you know. And yeah, you know, you had to call him, and then he'd give you this reading over the phone call. So we start talking. I paid him like $60. He does like tarot, and then he reads the card, and that's his excuse because this guy he was just psychic. He was just tapped in. He could read the Akashic records, like period. Like that's it. And I didn't even understand what was happening at the time, but like, yeah, I'm doing tarot, but he's reading the Akashic. So
Right.
he's literally just telling me my future without revealing everything. He was like, "This is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, and you're gonna have this much energy, and you're gonna be able to do this, and this and that." But he said it in a way where it was like it was veiled. It was like a story, and like I was like, okay. And again, I kind of took I just was like, okay, well, we'll see what happens,
Right.
right? So the next 3 to 6 months of my life go on, and everything he said happens. And at that time, he said, "You're gonna have so much energy. You're gonna do 8 creative projects." In that time, I built Ascension Academy. I made my poetry book. I made 2 other books. I created two card games. I created a ceremonial music album. I created like so much digital art and pendants. Like, so everything he said like manifested, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. And during that time, I just focused and just grinded it all out. Like it was just coming out, without
Yeah.
effort. It wasn't like I was trying to fulfill his prophecy. It was just
Right.
happening. The energy was there, and I was like, okay, well, it's here. Let's work with it.
Yeah.
So then I said, okay, let me go back to him and see. So 6 months later, I think it was like 4 to 6 months later, I went back to him again, and I talked to him. And this time he told me 2 things. One thing he asked me, he said, "Well, what do you want in your life?" or something like that. And so, of course, I go back to the prayer of like connecting with the divine and meeting spirit. I don't think I said meeting a living spiritual master. I said something about like, I always say something about like connecting to the divine light. And then he said later in the conversation, he said, "I see a spiritual master is going to come to your life. Your master's coming." That's what he told me.
Wow.
Right. And then this is literally probably a year before I met him. Then the next thing that happened, again, I kind of like wishful thinking, took it with a grain of salt, ended up not using him again just because I didn't want to abuse his spiritual powers. And I was like, yeah, I don't feel called to like go back to him. And then I go on another Aya journey with a very dear brother. I'm not going to name him. He loves his privacy, but it was just 4 of us. It was like a private, and he's just so tapped in. And we're there in ceremony on the first night of ceremony, and he says, "I see like a Sufi master next to you.
Mm.
I see a Sufi master like next to you." And I was like, no one's ever told me that. Like anything in ceremony, people don't tell you in ceremony, they tell you afterwards or whatever. He was like in ceremony, broke his thing to be like, "This is what I'm seeing." And I was like, okay, I don't know what that means, but I don't know any Sufis other than Rumi,
Right.
and Shams. So, um, but that was like 3 months or 4 months right before I met him. So there was this foreshadowing of like, it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Which is so wild looking back at it.
Yeah.
When you're in it, you can't see anything.
Right.
I didn't connect any of those dots. I didn't see any of that stuff. So then fast forward to the moment when I launch Ascension Academy, because now I'm like full spiritual ego. Everyone's just praising me. You're such a beautiful teacher. You're such a beautiful brother. You got it. Like, we're leading workshops. We're doing retreats. Like, we're doing our own plant medicine ceremonies now, and people are just like, wow, you're playing so many instruments, and you're this incredible poet, and you're incredible at dancing. That's just, the list was long,
Yeah.
and it went straight right there. So I was
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
I've arrived. I'm ready to just teach you all.
Right.
this this Ascension Academy was born, and the tagline was "Transcend your pain to embody your bliss."
Mm-hmm.
And it was 8 modalities, 4 yang, 4 yin, from all the tools and techniques, hundreds of tools and techniques and kriyas and meditations that I had done. I just boiled it down to, these are the ones that are going to take you there to heal your body. Because I literally actually did those things, and they did heal my body. And I can sit now, right? So I said, this is the way. And anyone that wants to transcend their pain, they can take this way as well. And it's going to cost you a couple $100 to sign up for the course, right?
Right.
Join let's get you through the funnel, right? And so, and it was that's what I was doing. So I started launching to the world and come out with these blog posts, just these deep blog posts, like of the spiritual journey and different concepts of spirituality, and they just resonated with people. Like, they started going locally viral in my community. Like, people were like, I had never had anything shared like 50, 100 times or anything like that, and hundreds, if not thousands, of likes on my posts and comments and this and that. And within a week, I had maxed out my 5,000 friends, like within a week. And my social medias were just blowing up. And I remember people were just sending me messages, interested, wanting to talk more, wanting to sign up, things like that. One of those people was my teacher. Little did I know that followed me,
Wow.
right? And I saw his name, and his name was Bahadur Singh, and I was like, that's such an interesting name. I never heard a name like that. And I clicked on his name, and I went to his page, and he's wearing a turban. He has a beard. He's in a business suit. And I go to his page, and it's just like, be compassionate, like, love thy neighbor type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this is, yeah, okay, he's spiritual, but this is just so basic. Like, we're dealing with the 12th dimension over here, bro.
Where's
Like,
where's the 5D stuff, bro?
yeah, not even 5D, 12D, bro.
Right. Right.
Other people are talking about 49D. Like, like,
Yeah.
like, this is not even 3D. This is just so basic. Like, yeah, okay, spiritual, but I didn't think anything of it. So I just like, okay, he's just finding his way. That's great. Great for him. I'm gonna leave. So I just left his page. And then the week progresses, and all these people are talking to me, and I'm doing consultations with them. And then a couple days pass, I posted another thing, and just by the Facebook algorithm gods,
Mm-hmm.
how it says like somebody, and hundreds, if not thousands, of people like this post, and they put one name in the front.
And it's him.
It was his name.
Wow.
It was
Well,
his name.
bro, I mean, we're right at time right now. So
That was 90 minutes?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that's what I was saying. And we need more time. So we'll have to do a part 2, but it sounds like that kind of opened the door for the next episode for us to dive into the next chapter of this podcast.
That's insane, brother, that
Yeah.
we just did 90 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
time doesn't really work very well on this podcast.
Okay, bro. Well, let's definitely do round 2, because I feel like that's the first half of the chapter, which led to the second chapter, and
Yeah,
it's equally potent, and it's just beautiful medicine. And I would just love to sum up the first chapter with a poem.
let's do it.
Uh, yeah, because I felt like the first chapter really was all about, you know, the concept of defining myself, of who I thought I was at that time. And I always just love this poem. It's just called I Am, because at every point in the path, you just have to choose to say what you are and what you're not, and come to that kind of realization. And I
Yeah.
think this is a poem you've probably heard before as well. But, and you'll see the difference between this chapter and the next chapter of my life. But in that definition, it goes like this: I am the truth. I am the light cutting through the night, piercing your soul, strumming the chord of humanity that awakens ancient ideologies, shifting perceived realities as the shimmering waves of heat in the distance, realizing the pinnacle of our existence, the essence of our being, by seeing past the 3D into the infinite fractal nature of we, consciously expanding in all 7 directions simultaneously, reaching for what is already held deep within. We find the key, LOVE, turn it and see. What happens next leaves scientists perplexed. The spark of lightning arcs across the ether to connect. 2 points as if joints. Time sinks to synchronistic, surrealistic reality twisted to the riddle in the middle of our souls. Deeper we go down the rabbit hole. Never quite knowing the plan, but understand all is revealed in due time as the unfolding of the divine. When we align and follow the signs, taking the path with the heart, we start to tear apart the fabric of reality, replace it with our dreams, stitching the seams with streams of life, flowing through the landscape of time with crystalline visions we've held within our minds. So visualize the future and cure the present with your presence. Focusing your attention with the power of intention is the key to ascension.
Mm-hmm.
We rise with the sunrise, the truth reflecting back at me in your eyes, glistening as we begin listening to the rhythm, turning the concept of them into us. We're on the cusp of a breakthrough, but who has the courage to do what it takes to shake the shadows of their souls, clear the fear and the pain to obtain bliss so that you can unclench your fists and inspire the next 7 generations to hold that vibration of love, compassion, and patience.
Beautiful. Beautiful, brother. Read
Thank
with
you.
so much passion too, man. What a beautiful way to end the podcast, man. That was amazing.
Thank you, brother. I really feel like that sums up like the first 5 years of my journey, and led and like really define like what the process was like going through that darkness, remembering yourself, and then saying I am, and recreating my own spiritual ego out of that, which is very beautiful. But at the same time, for the true spiritualist, that's not the end goal. So in chapter 2, we'll be able to talk about like seeing even deeper down the path and like where the soul was calling me to go into, and how my teacher kind of, um, uh, gently helped guide me into that space where the soul could remember the true path. So I'm really grateful to be on the podcast today, and thank you for having me. And I really look forward to round 2.
Yeah, sounds good, brother. Send you so much love, and we'll pick a time to do the next one. Thank you again. Until next time.
Stay blessed.